Meatloaf. This comfort food brings me back to my childhood, and today I'm cooking up a delicious low-carb, low-fat, and super high-protein meatloaf recipe. Let's dive in. First thing you're going to need for low-fat meatloaf is meat. I'm using 93% lean, but anything in the 90s is fine. Once you get below 90% lean is when the fat really starts to creep up. Next, we need a bag of frozen cauliflower rice. Stay away from the ones that have added sauces or seasonings. The only ingredient here should be cauliflower. You'll need 2 large eggs of whatever color and pedigree you prefer. Let your budget and conscience be your guide. 1 cup of tomato sauce. Any kind of low-fat marinara is fine here. 3 slices of white onion. I like to make them about 1/4 inch thick like this. Now for the seasonings. You'll start with 1 teaspoon of granulated onion powder, 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm using pink, but whatever you have is totally fine. 1 teaspoon of cracked black pepper. These next 2 ingredients are optional, but really help bring out the umami of the meat. The first is the sodium-free beef bouillon packet, and the next is a few shakes of Maggi seasoning. You could also use Worcestershire sauce here instead. Again, both are totally optional, but without them, it might taste more like a hamburger than a meatloaf. Okay, so now putting this all together is pretty easy. We just dump everything in a bowl and mix it up. There's no special order here except to leave the eggs and the meat for the end. So we add our cauliflower rice, all of our seasonings, the bouillon powder goes on here, just spread it around. Put our Maggi sauce in, or your Worcestershire if you're using that, and then just give this a good stir. This is frozen cauliflower, so just do a good job here. Try and break up any big clumps of cauliflower rice as you go. It does not have to be perfect. We're just really trying to combine all the seasonings into the cauliflower rice and make sure we don't have any giant clumps along the way. Now we'll add our 2 pounds of ground beef along with the 2 eggs. Crack these in here. 1, and made a mess. 2. I prefer to use my hands to mix it up and make sure everything's really well combined. Take your time here. You're not trying to make some kind of beef paste or beef jerky. You're just trying to combine everything and make sure it all comes together. It does take a couple of minutes. You're just going to sort of come through here, keep flipping it over, almost like you're kneading a delicate bread, right? Just flip it, toss it, make everything come together. And then once it's all combined, I usually just roughly separate it into the 2 sides. I'm not going for absolute precision here, but you could use a food scale if you wanted to get that granular. You could also cook this in one giant loaf, but the cooking time would need to be adjusted. Now comes the easy part. We're going to take these 2 things out. We're going to sort of bunch it up almost like it's a giant meatball, and we're going to put it into our tray. You do this for both sides. Try and get all the last goodness out of the bowl, and just put it in our cooking vessel. I'm using these glass Pyrex containers because they're oven safe. You could use any kind of oven safe cooking dish for this, as well as even like a cast iron pan. Next, we're going to layer on our onion slices. This does not have to be perfect unless you prefer it that way. I just like to sort of evenly distribute them, get them on here so that each slice has some onion on it. Sort of like playing a little bit of Tetris here. And finally, we're going to cover each loaf with your tomato sauce. Some people will use straight tomato paste here, or even ketchup. It's totally up to you. All we're really trying to do is to pack on a little bit of extra flavor and some coating to keep the meat from drying out. Although in our case, the cauliflower rice adds so much moisture to the meat that this is less about it drying out and more just about the flavor. Now these will go into the oven. We preheated the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and they'll cook for about an hour. So in my case, just to make it easy, I'm going to put it on this extra tray, and off to the oven we go. After an hour, use your food thermometer. Make sure they get to at least 160 degrees Fahrenheit before you take it out. Let it rest for a few minutes before cutting it, and then you can serve it up. You can see once we give this a cut, just how incredibly moist this meatloaf is compared to if we'd use breadcrumbs. The cauliflower rice does a fantastic job of imparting all of that moisture in, and then it essentially disappears like magic. Like there's no vegetables in this at all. And so at this point, we will plate it. My absolutely fantastic plating skills here that I did not learn in any kind of culinary school. And you can serve this up with some veggies or a salad, and you've got an incredible comfort food dinner. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It really does help the channel. Thanks so much.